Karmelo Anthony thought claiming self-defense would protect him, but one action before he attacked proves he wasn't innocent. The track star took Austin Metcalf's life with a knife over a tent. Austin's twin brother, Hunter, desperately held him until he passed away.
You're sitting in the back of the courtroom when the judge's words change the entire atmosphere. The defendant will be temporarily released. Gasps ripple across the gallery as the reason is explained. Karmelo Anthony, facing indictment for first-degree murder, is being granted a short release following the birth of his newborn child. Court documents confirm the release is not permanent, but a limited allowance tied directly to the circumstances of the baby's arrival. Officials state the decision was made on humanitarian grounds, citing the importance of immediate parental presence during the earliest days of a child's life. The order comes with strict conditions, monitored visits, limited travel, and mandatory check-ins with law enforcement. Reactions inside the room are divided. Some lean forward, nodding slightly, appearing to understand the emotional weight of the decision. Others shake their heads in disbelief, muttering that the court is showing leniency to someone facing the most serious charge on the books. Prosecutors issue a measured response, noting they oppose the request, but respect the ruling. One assistant district attorney adds bluntly, "A child's birth does not erase the severity of these charges." Outside the courthouse, the scene quickly spirals into spectacle. News vans swarm the entrance, microphones ready to capture the moment. Supporters gather, holding signs urging compassion, while critics shout angrily that justice is being delayed. Social media splits just as quickly. Some users call the release humane, while others accuse the court of bending rules for the sake of optics. For Anthony, the release marks his first step outside of custody in months, but only temporarily. The indictment still stands, the trial still looms, and the questions surrounding his role in the murder remain unanswered. And now, the debate begins. Was this a compassionate gesture recognizing the humanity of a father, or a dangerous precedent in a case tied to the most serious of crimes? If you were in that courtroom, would you have agreed with the release, or seen it as a mistake? You wake up to the sound of breaking news alerts buzzing across every major platform. Karmelo Anthony has been temporarily released from jail. The headline itself stops people mid-scroll, but what shocks them even more is the reason: his newborn baby. Legal experts explain that the decision wasn't made lightly. According to the judge's order, Anthony will be allowed limited freedom under strict humanitarian conditions. That means round-the-clock electronic monitoring, law enforcement escorts for hospital visits, and an ironclad deadline for when he must return to custody. The release is framed not as a privilege, but as a narrowly defined exception, one meant to acknowledge the gravity of a life beginning, even as another case centers on a life lost. The courtroom transcript shows Karmelo's defense attorney fighting hard for this outcome, arguing that denying him the ability to be present at his child's birth would be a cruelty beyond justice. Prosecutors pushed back just as firmly, warning that any leniency sends the wrong message about accountability. Still, the ruling came down in favor of Anthony. Outside, the optics are already under fire. Footage captures protesters gathering with signs that read, "Justice for Austin," and "No special treatment." Their chants echo the anger of the Metcalf family, who feel the release undermines the seriousness of the charges. One family supporter outside the courthouse is quoted as saying, "Austin never got another chance at life. Why should he?" At the same time, others argue the decision was humane, pointing out that a newborn child is innocent of the circumstances surrounding their parent. Comment sections online are filled with heated debates, some applauding the compassion, others demanding answers from the justice system. And now, the bigger question is being asked everywhere. Did this temporary release honor the rights of a father, or did it weaken the integrity of the case? If you were in the judge's position, what choice would you have made? You're sitting in the gallery when the details of Karmelo Anthony's temporary release begin to unfold. The judge's words are still fresh in the air, but the reaction in the room is divided, half relief, half outrage. His family members, seated close together, exchange tearful hugs as they learn he will at least have the chance to hold his newborn child. But on the opposite side, the Metcalf family stares forward in silence, their grief written across their faces, as though another wound has just been reopened. Court reporters note how sharply the atmosphere split in that moment. Supporters of Karmelo whisper to each other about a small victory, while prosecutors immediately begin drafting appeals paperwork to challenge the ruling. Their concern is clear: any relaxation of custody rules, no matter how brief, risks being seen as preferential treatment. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, camera crews capture raw emotion spilling onto the streets. Demonstrators stand shoulder to shoulder, some holding signs that demand justice for Austin Metcalf, others insisting that fatherhood cannot be stripped away by even the darkest accusations. A viral clip already making rounds shows one protester shouting, "This is not about compassion, this is about accountability," as police try to hold back the growing crowd. In online forums, the debate has only intensified. Hashtags like #Justice for Austin and #Father first climbed the trending lists simultaneously, each side rallying thousands of voices behind its position. For every comment calling the release a humanitarian necessity, another claims it disrespects the memory of a life lost. As this division grows louder, legal analysts are warning that public perception could play an even greater role in the case moving forward. And with emotions running this high, the central question becomes unavoidable. Is this decision an act of justice or a dangerous compromise? Would you view it as compassion or as a crack in the system? You wake up to headlines plastered across every major news outlet. Karmelo Anthony, temporarily released to see newborn. The framing is polarizing. On one channel, anchors describe the ruling as a necessary humanitarian allowance. On another, legal commentators call it a shocking lapse in judgment. The split isn't just in the courtroom anymore. It's in the public narrative itself. Inside the courthouse, observers recall the way the judge paused before issuing the decision, as if weighing not only the law, but the cultural weight of the ruling. That pause now carries as much meaning as the words that followed. Attorneys for the Metcalf family wasted no time in voicing their anger, one stating bluntly, "A new child does not erase the death of another." Their words echo far beyond the courtroom, shared in clips that have already garnered millions of views. Meanwhile, supporters of Karmelo see the temporary release as a moment of humanity. Images of him holding his newborn under heavy guard are already circulating online. For some, it's a scene of hope, a man accused of the darkest crime still allowed to experience the light of fatherhood. For others, it's proof that notoriety brings privileges ordinary defendants would never receive. The optics are undeniable: security vans outside the hospital, officers lining the hallways, news cameras flashing as a private family moment becomes a public spectacle. Social media users are already debating whether this moment was staged for sympathy or if it truly represents the court's recognition of basic human rights. And now the question hangs heavy. When justice and compassion collide in this way, which should prevail? Would you have granted him this chance or denied it in the name of fairness? You sit in silence as court analysts dissect the legal boundaries of the decision. Temporary releases are rare, typically reserved for funerals or dire medical emergencies. Yet in this case, a judge cited extraordinary circumstances, granting Karmelo a brief window to witness the birth of his child. Critics argue that the same system denying countless fathers behind bars the same opportunity is bending for a high-profile defendant, sparking accusations of double standards. The Metcalf family's legal team didn't hold back. Outside the courthouse, one spokesperson told reporters, "This decision is a slap in the face. While Karmelo meets his newborn, Austin Metcalf's parents will never hold their son again." The words drew nods of agreement from grieving supporters standing in the background, holding signs that read, "Justice for Austin." Yet inside the defense camp, the tone was markedly different. Family friends described the moment as necessary for the baby's future, arguing that no child should be deprived of their father's presence at birth, regardless of the charges pending against him. They say the short release was about recognizing life, not diminishing loss. Still, the optics continue to dominate. Police SUVs escorting Karmelo to the hospital, reporters sprinting to capture footage, and bystanders filming on their phones as the accused walked briefly under the sunlight. That footage has now gone viral, split-screened on social media, with images of the Metcalfs mourning at Austin's gravesite. The contrast is stark, and the arguments fierce. And as these images circulate, the debate deepens. Is the justice system showing compassion, or simply bending under the weight of fame and money? If this had been someone else, would the decision have been the same? You wake up to the sound of breaking news alerts buzzing across every platform. Clips of Karmelo Anthony leaving the hospital in handcuffs, his brief taste of freedom over as deputies guide him back into custody. Cameras flash in rapid bursts, freezing the image of a father who just cradled his newborn child, now once again bound by the reality of a pending murder charge. The image itself is polarizing. Some see a moment of humanity, while others see nothing but injustice. Legal experts are already weighing in. Some note that the release was strictly temporary, handled under tight supervision with armed officers present every step of the way. Yet critics argue it sends a dangerous precedent, that notoriety or financial resources can influence the justice system in ways unavailable to everyday defendants. One analyst remarked on air, "We've seen men miss the births of their children countless times because of incarceration. This case highlights who gets compassion and who doesn't." Online, the footage is sparking a firestorm. Hashtags like #JusticeForAustin and #FreeCarmelo are trending side by side, each with thousands of comments clashing over morality and fairness. Some posts share sympathy for the child, stressing that the baby had no choice in the matter and deserved to meet their father. Others lash out, saying the decision disrespected Austin Metcalf's life and the pain of his family. Even among neutral observers, there's unease about the optics of armored SUVs outside a maternity ward. Videos of the convoy pulling away from the hospital are being slowed down and replayed, each frame scrutinized for meaning. What should have been a private family moment has instead become another public chapter in a case already drowning in controversy. And now, the lingering question continues to echo. Was this a rare act of compassion? Or just another example of a system that bends for some and not for others? Would you have allowed it if you were the judge? You hear the murmurs outside the courthouse grow louder. Crowds split down the middle as Karmelo Anthony is escorted back behind the steel gates of the county jail. The brief release is over, the newborn moment already fading into another chapter of debate. Some supporters cheer, insisting that no father should be denied such a life milestone. Others glare with folded arms, demanding to know why the Metcalf family must grieve every holiday, every birthday, while Karmelo is given even temporary reprieves. The contrast is striking, and every camera captures the tension. Reporters swarm the courthouse steps, firing off questions that go unanswered. The Anthony family, exhausted and guarded, avoids eye contact as they slip into waiting vehicles. Social media commentary continues to surge, with clips of the release now edited into highlight reels, spliced alongside footage of Austin Metcalf's memorial. The comparisons are deliberate, forcing viewers to decide which side deserves sympathy. Inside legal circles, the focus shifts to what this means for the trial. Some prosecutors privately admit they fear this moment could sway public opinion, humanizing Karmelo at a time when the state is pushing for the harshest sentence possible. Defense attorneys, on the other hand, see it as leverage, proof their client can still be viewed as a father, not only a killer. Every angle of the story is now being weaponized, not just in court, but in the court of public opinion. As the gavel slams on yet another hearing, the case grows heavier. The spotlight doesn't dim, it only intensifies. And with each new development, the divide between justice, compassion, and perception